look at types of poetry. Most of my classes are recorded and uploaded on YouTube. So we'll always share the link with you, so you visit YouTube and listen to the class again. And remember to subscribe, like and comment on the videos. So there are many types of poetry. There are many types of poetry. These are the epic, mock epic, mock epic, mock epic, elegy, elegy, elegy does not have an R. Elegy is spelled without R. Dirge, dirge, dirge. Trenody, trenody. Trenody. Then we have eld, 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 eld. Then you have lyric. 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 Ballad. Ballad. Sonnet. Sonnet. Limerick. Ideal. Limerick. Ideal. Acrostic poetry. Acrostic poetry. Acrostic poetry. Panegyric. 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 Narrative poem. Narrative poem. Narrative poem. Lampoon. poem. Satirical poetry. Satirical poetry. Dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry. Pastoral poetry. Pastoral elegy. Pastoral elegy. Then we have haiku. 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 We have Tezarima. We have Clariview. 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 We have Sinking. We have Sinking. And then we have didactic poetry. Let's talk about the epic. Let's just focus on the epic. The epic is one of the oldest forms of poetry. The epic is one of the oldest forms of poetry. It's also the longest type of poetry. It's also the longest type of poetry. The longest. It's usually defined with an emphasis on its length. It is usually defined with emphasis on its length. You cannot define the epic without mentioning its length. It is a long narrative poem. The epic is a long narrative poem. The epic is a long narrative poem written in an elevated style. Epic is a long narrative poem written in an elevated style. Using flowery language. With solemnity of tone, with solemnity of tone, solemnity, solemnity of tone, to eulogize, erudice, to eulogize, erudice, or to praise, erudice. So the first characteristic of the epic is that it is long. The first characteristic of the epic is that it's long. It's lengthy. And as I've said, the epic is the longest type of poetry. Epic is the longest type of poetry. It is so long that it cannot be finished in one day. It is so lengthy that it cannot be read in one day. Because you see, the epic is a book itself, in a book form itself. It has a textbook length. The epic has a textbook length. Of course, the epic is usually organized in books, like from book 1 to book 10 to book 12. And each book is divided into cantos. So the division of the epic is books and cantos. The epic is divided into cantos and books. Book 1 can have 5 cantos, and so on and so forth, till book 12 or book 10. So the epic is really very voluminous. So you can see why it cannot be read in one day. Now the intriguing thing about the length of the epic is that, the origin of the epic is that it was not usually, did not begin as a written art. It began as an oral art. The epic began as what? An oral art. It was not written down. So the bard, which is the writer of the epic, had to compose the poem using memory, and memorize the entire poem, and then recite it through the agency of memory. Alright? That's the intriguing thing about the epic. That's the intriguing thing about the epic. Excuse me? What's your name? Peace. John. Okay, that's an interesting name. Okay, so what's your question?
I want you to recap the last points you made.
So what was the last point I made? So we were talking about the intriguing nature, we're talking about the intriguing nature of the epic. Especially the length. So the intriguing thing about the epic is that despite its length, right, the bard, and who's the bard? The writer of the epic had to compose, memorize, and recite the poem from memory. That's what makes it intriguing. Despite the fact that the epic is so lengthy, organized in books and cantos, one person was able to do what? Compose it, memorize it, and recite it just from memory. And that alone signals the power of the human mind, the power of the human intelligence. Which most people have not been able to utilize for whatever reason. But the people of old made use of their memory. Of course, we know people, many religious figures who were able to memorize the Bible. They could recite the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. But most people today cannot recite one verse, even John 3 verse 16. Most people cannot recite it. Alright? So you need to make use of the power of your memory, just like the bards did. Why did they do that? Because the epic began as an oral art. It was not written down. It was in the later ages that it was written down. But most epics have been lost. Because once the composers died, then they went with them. Whatever was left in the memory of the people might not be a coherent text. So the epic was used. The epic was. The epic is also a narrative poem, right? Long. We have talked about the length. Now I want to talk about narrative. So the epic is a narrative poem because it tells a story. The epic is a narrative poem because it does what? It tells a story. The epic tells a story. So the word narrative refers to story. So if it's used to describe the work of art, that means the work of art does what? Tells a story. Then, written in an elevated style. That talks about the unique style of the epic. The epic has a unique style. The epic has a style that is unique to itself. The epic has a unique style. And we call it the grand style. We call it what? Grand style. The style of the epic is grand. So that is what we mean by the elevated style. Meaning that the epic is written using dignified language. The epic is written using dignified language. The epic is written using dignified language. The epic is written using refined language. Refined language. Language suitable for addressing kings and queens and nobles in society. All right? Language suitable for addressing who? Kings, queens, and noble society. Dignified language. That means the tone of the epic is solemn and formal. When you stand before important people to talk, you have to be serious. You have to use language suitable to the occasion. The language has to be elevated because you're talking about important members of society. You cannot use mean language to address things except you don't like your life. Okay? You cannot use mean language to address kings except you do not like your life. So, that informs the style of the epic, which is grand, elevated. So, the epic was used to praise the heroic actions of kings and knights, especially their exploits in the battlefield. Especially their exploits where in the battlefield. Actions of great men are depicted in the epic. The epic is not used to talk about knowledgeless people. Right? The epic is used to discuss the actions of great men, their exploits in battle, to foreground their heroism. It's done to foreground their heroism, to see how wonderful, how great they are. So, great men are immortalized in the epic. Great men are what? Immortalized in the epic. That's why the epic usually talks about battles, wars, conquests, exploits, heroism. And these warrior kings were usually conscious of their immortality, of their greatness, which explains why they usually carry these poets to the battlefield, so that they could witness firsthand what these warriors have done. Okay? You know, most of them will not live long. They might even die in the battlefield, but they want their stories to be told to the coming generation, so that whatever they did for society will not be forgotten. Of course, they were legends, and legends are not supposed to be forgotten by society, because they fought not for themselves, they fought to save, to protect society. And so, because they were conscious of their immortality, they had to. Most of them used to carry bards to the battlefield to observe what they do, so that they could actually recount in their poems what they did. So poems also preserve human memory. In the epic, poems preserve the actions of great men. So when you read the epic, you are likely to encounter the actions of great people, their travels, their struggles against existential forces, their battle with the gods. Because you know, sometimes men battle with the gods. Right? Most people battle with unseen forces. Right? Some of you wanted to come to the university, but some unseen forces in your villages will not allow you. They stopped you for some time. And you kept battling. Understand? And finally you have won and you are here. Right? And sometimes even when you are here, they will not allow you to rest. They still come to say that you will not graduate, right? And you have to battle with them again. So you are heroes. Okay? Because you are battling with unseen forces. Family. So the epic has its own plot. The epic has its own plot. The epic has its own plot. Which one we call the epic plot structure? Epic plot structure. The epic has its own plot. What you might call the epic plot structure. And that is in medias res. The plot structure of the epic is in medias res. The plot structure of the epic is the in medias res. It is Latin for in the middle of things. Medias res is Latin for what? In the middle of things. Okay? Middle. Medias res. So the epic usually begins in the middle of things. It is a form of non-chronological plot structure where the events in the story begin in the middle. And probably may go back to the beginning before going to the end. But it begins in the middle. That's what we call in medias res. So if someone asks you, what is the plot structure of the epic? What will you say? Medias res. Which means in the middle of things. So this also goes into the definition of the epic. So that in case we ask you, what is the epic? We'll just ask you one innocent question, which is what is the epic? Alright? And you say, oh, this question is very simple. You start finding yourself. And then you now write, the epic is a long narrative poem written in an elevated style that expresses a very deep full stop. Then you stop there, you answer the question, you start finding yourself again. Understand? Alright? Without knowing that you never. Okay? So in the university, we simply ask one innocent question, you say, alright? So when we say, what is the epic, what we are saying is tell us everything you know about the epic. Alright? Tell us everything that you know about the epic. So when you see the question looking innocent, just smile and say that this question is not innocent at all. But rather we dive in. Alright? It means that everything that you know about the epic must be recorded. Because that is what the epic is. Okay, so it's one thing, in the university it's one thing to be intelligent, it's also another thing to know how to answer questions. Okay, so if you are not sure, you will always ask the lecturer, how should we answer questions? Very important. So before the epic begins, the epic usually has what we call invocation of the muse. Invocation of the muse. The epic usually has what is called invocation of the muse. That is the first thing that the bard does as he begins to write the poem. He has to invoke the muse. The muse is the goddess of poetry, right? Because the epic is an inspired art. The epic poetry generally is an inspired art. That means if you're not inspired, you cannot write it. If you're not inspired, you cannot do what? You cannot write. You have to be inspired. There has to be a force larger than yourself pushing you nudging you to write. That's inspiration, and you will not rest until you have written it. In the olden days, we talked about this for the name of the spirit of poetry. The God and goddess of poetry called Muse. M-U-S-E, Muse. Who will inhabit the poet, takes over. He will take over from the poet to write the poem. Just like your pastor will say, let it not be me preaching, let it be you preaching in me. Right? So the pastor surrenders himself to the Holy Spirit to take over. So it will not be his word, but it will be what? The word of God. Living word of God. Right? Where the pastor simply becomes an instrument. Right? In the hands of God. The same thing with the epic writer. So the invocation of the muse is a statement that the bard makes to invite the muse to take over and be the one writing or singing the poem. That's what it means. The first thing that the muse says, inviting the gods to inhabit him to write the poem. So the epic usually begins with an invocation of the muse. Another characteristic of the epic. Another characteristic of the epic is that there is usually the intervention of the supernatural in human events, in human affairs. The intervention of the supernatural in human affairs. The intervention of the supernatural. The intervention of the supernatural in human affairs is a major characteristic of the epic. That means in the story that the epic tells, in the world of the epic, or in the world created by the epic writer, you see the gods intervening in human situation. That's a major characteristic of the epic. The epic usually depicts war situations, and each warrior has a protector or a protectress in the form of a god or a goddess. The epic usually talks about war or battles, and I'm saying that each warrior usually has a god or a goddess as a source of protection. And these gods and goddesses usually intervene to help those that they protect. That is what you find in any epic. Another characteristic of the epic is that human life is fated. Human life is fated. Okay? Human life is fated in the world of the epic. Events are fated in the world of the epic. Events are what? Fated. So we have the presence of the supernatural and fate. A fated event cannot be averted. A fated event is one that cannot be what? Averted. A fated event is one that cannot be averted. That means you cannot avoid it no matter what you do. Okay? In one of his novels, Ephraim Sabbath said, no matter the corporeal fortification, what was designed for a man, sooner or later is bound to happen. That's faith. What was designed for a man, sooner or later is bound to happen. Right. So if an event is fated, no matter what you do, you cannot avoid it. It could have been said as a prophecy that at a particular point this will happen. If it is a fated event, no matter what the person does, the event will still happen. In fact, your actions trying to avoid the event would actually bring it to pass. And that is what we notice about the life of Oedipus, for instance. When he was born, when Oedipus was born, there was a prophecy that he will kill his father and marry the mother. Okay? And when he learns about the prophecy, he leaves home so as not to fulfill it, without knowing that by leaving home, he's actually going to the home. By leaving home, he's actually going home. Right? Not knowing that leaving home is going home. So that is faith for you. So until he fulfills the prophecy, because it is fatal, it cannot be avoided. So events in the epic are usually fated. So that is where we end our class for today.